be joining us, will Steve Forbes, talking a little bit about the Bucks' disappointing loss to Xavier, 22 points. They fall to the Musketeers on Saturday afternoon. However, that's not been the story that's dominated conversation of sports in the market today. And it is a day, kind of a rare day, the day where ETSU football is on top of the fold. Usually, that's Tennessee football. Bigger SEC. Even in the Tri-Cities, we sell our souls, for instance, to the local team, ETSU. I've done it on here. And we focus on the team in Knoxville. They're the state school after all, and we're part of the state, unless you're listening in Bristol, Virginia, or watching on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities on Facebook Live, or I guess there are parts of North Carolina where the signal goes quite well as well. Anyway, but yes, we do invite you to watch, and if you're missed part of the show, we archive 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities, the Facebook page. You can watch us there. Anyway, it's my hope this weekend allowed a changing of philosophy concerning the way ETSU is viewed by their fan base, as well as the Tri-Cities community. First, let's talk about that loss to Xavier, ETSU. One of my criticisms with college basketball, and for that matter with the Buccaneers fan base, is that there is almost an acceptance of losing to major programs. Let me give you an example. What would you say is the game that ETSU fans think of primarily? What would you say is the most famous game in ETSU history? It's a loss. 72-71. If you're a real Tri-Citian, you know what I'm talking about. And I can't believe ETSU losing to Oklahoma, 1989 NCAA tournament. I've written about this game, Sports Talk. I've lived the part of this game. I've seen ETSU make the NCAA tournament 9 times. People talk about that game around here, that loss to Oklahoma, almost like it's a victory. In fact, let's take almost out of it. They talk about it like it's a victory. Even though the Bucks blew a 15-point lead to Mookie Blaylock and company, even though they couldn't get the ball across the timeline, 4 seconds left to put up a final shot against Billy Tubbs' defense. They still talk about it like it's a victory. That's bad for the program. You're supposed to win those games. 16 seed. Yeah, no 16 has ever beat a number 1. I know, this was about as close as it came. I guess one team went to overtime, but yeah, no one. 15s have defeated 2 in the NCAAs. A 16 has never defeated a 1. Still, just the idea of, losing by 1 point. I don't know, in Cullowhee. I know it's a smaller fan base, but in Western Carolina, in Asheville, do they talk about, the 1 point loss 6 years after ETSU, 7 years after ETSU lost to Oklahoma, to Purdue in the NCAA tournament. That was a 16-5. I think it was Frankie King's last second shot went off the back of the rim. Otherwise, Western Carolina would have been the first team, 16, to be a 1. I mean, is there this romanticism of that game in Cullowhee? I don't know. I would think not. It's almost a acceptance of, it's just nice to be here. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, although it could be a stand to reason, ETSU's improved from their 18-point loss to Northern Kentucky, start of the year. Maybe it is the time now where, I don't know if that many ETSU fans are really saying, isn't it great ETSU only lost by a bucket to the number 10 team in the country? Because you know what? I remember when ETSU was the number 10 team in the country. I remember when ETSU was the number 10 team in the country. For that matter, I know from a historical perspective when ETSU beat the number 9 team in the country. History lesson, Marky knows it. Here we go. February 11th, 1991, ETSU is ranked 10th in the country. December 14th, 1968, we just went through the 49th anniversary of this game. Harley Skeeter Swift, Madison Brooks, and company, they go to Cameron Indoor Stadium and defeat the 9th-ranked Duke Blue Devils by the score of 71-63. Now, ETSU will truly have arrived as a basketball program when they can finish games like that out. You know, in the first 2 seasons, under Steve Forbes, ETSU has had big signature victories. The victory against Georgia Tech in Atlanta, game after ETSU lost to eventual national champ Villanova by 30. That sees the direction of the program under Steve Forbes. It could have fallen right down the drain after that big loss to the Villanova Wildcats. Future national champion or no? We had no way of knowing at the time. It looked like, oh boy, here's Steve Forbes, the guy who, you know, it came off like a palooka in his introductory press conference, you know, and, oh, I didn't know they ran zone around here. And we'll learn that. And 30-point loss to Villanova, I'm thinking, this is not good. What happens very next game? ETSU overcomes a 5-point halftime deficit, beats Georgia Tech last year in overtime. ETSU beats Mississippi State. Okay, Mississippi State isn't a basketball powerhouse. Haven't been in several years. They're still coached by Ben Howland. Howland still, you know, took UCLA to the national title game. It's not like it's, you know, I mean, it's a legitimate victory. Victory against an ACC team and an SEC team. Maybe it is the bottom half of the conference, but it's a Southern Conference team winning those games. Okay, that's a step forward. A victory against 10th-ranked Xavier. Xavier, 10th ranked, better than the other 2 teams, even if they are in bigger conferences. That would have been the signature defining victory for ETSU. They're really now still looking to, do you call Georgia Tech? Do you call Mississippi State? Do you call the victory against UNCG to go to the NCAAs last year as the biggest victory in Steve Forbes' career? I don't know. Could have happened, should have happened. You're up by 22 points, you got to win a ball game. You lose like that, and you don't look like you're an up-and-coming program. You look like you are just happy to be playing with Xavier. Number 10. You know what? ETSU is coming off an NCAA tournament berth. 2 seasons of 24 or more victories. This program, let alone the entire Southern Conference, and there are some big matchups in the SoCon this week, but if the SoCon is ever going to be a 2-bid league, if ETSU is ever going to be a program that's going to get an at-large bid, got to win that game. Got to close it out. And you know what? I think that there has been a refreshing amount of criticism and not like the feel of that game so many years ago in 1989, the 1-point loss to Oklahoma, where he said, oh, wasn't it great? They came so close. Everybody's going to talk about this. It's going to put ETSU on the map. Beating Xavier would have put ETSU on the map to a certain extent. It would have gotten the headlines. Losing? No. Not at all. No. It's ignored by the nation. That's what was at stake. And there's a sense of disappointment, not moral victory. And I think that does show that ETSU has come a long way. I'll give you another idea where ETSU came from. We'll be talking about here. ETSU is coming off an NCAA tournament berth. I mentioned that. They also just hired Randy Sanders as their head football coach. That's a big hire. That's a very big hire. It allowed ETSU to reject the local fan base who historically have said, you know what? You know who'd be a good coach for ETSU? The local high school coach. Graham Clark would be a good coach for ETSU. I've heard rival sports talk show hosts in this market say that. You know who would be a good coach? George Pitts would be a good coach for ETSU. Let alone, we spent last week, high school coaches that are promoted directly to the college ranks are not successful. Look at the history. Jerry Faust, Bob Wade. I mean, it's just not there.